Trudeau is now a mouse in the kitchen running around. You see them just under your cabinetry. His own cabinet has a broom and they're trying to get him. They're going to get him.
You are in for something special today. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. In today's top stories, we've got Kevin O'Leary going completely nuclear on Justin Trudeau. This is the biggest blow up he's ever had on Justin Trudeau. He almost goes into a fit of rage. It's unbelievable to watch. We've also got Vasi Capellos and a couple different panels here talking about the landmines ahead of the Liberals here who seem to be laying them out for themselves. They're not avoiding them. They're the ones putting them down at their current rate. The Liberals will be destroying their own party and destroying Canada and our economy in the process. So let's jump into this.
Want to talk Canada now. We saw Prime Minister Trudeau's immediate reaction saying, don't worry, Canada, everything's going to be fine for us under a Trump presidency. We're fine with a Trump victory. Kevin, what is Trudeau really up against here?
Trudeau is now a mouse in the kitchen running around. You see them just under your cabinetry. His own cabinet has a broom and they're trying to get him. They're going to get him. They're going to get that little mouse pretty soon, and it's going to be great because it's going to open up Canada to bring back to international investing. I am very excited about investing in Canada again. I haven't touched it in 8 years. Trudeau's the worst manager in history of Canada. I've said that countless times. It's the end game now. It's very important that we get rid of him soon. But I think Canada is in a great position right now because we need energy in North America, and we have it. We need data centers. Canada can lead in AI. We need to get rid of Trudeau. I thank him for his service, and it's time to move on. I mean, they're going to get the mouse. The broom's going to hit the mouse soon. That's what's going to happen.
But the question is, Kevin, who is that leader in Canada? Does Canada even have such a candidate?
I don't care. I don't care if they put a goat in running Canada. It's better than what we got right now. I'm happy to put a goat in Parliament, and we just listen to that goat nay, yes or no. It's better than what we have right now. Trudeau has killed Canada. The amount of capital that has left Canada in the last 8.5 years, the GDP per capita, the collapse of investment in Canada, it's all on him. He owns it. That guy has damaged our country in such a brutal fashion, it's going to take decades to fix it. It's so important that he get out of there. Please leave us alone. Please leave. Please. His own party is on their knees begging him to leave. He's got to go. We have to fix the country. Please, enough. Please, enough. You can do something else. He's still got his passport. He can stay in Canada if he wants. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't care. He's just got to step aside. The damage, the abuse, the mismanagement, the incompetency. Please don't get me going.
Kevin, you're right. I mean,
Too late, Kevin O'Leary. The guy's getting all red in the face. He genuinely dislikes Justin Trudeau. The whole catching the mouse thing with the cabinet, the broom, that's hilarious. That's a great analogy for Trudeau. Although I personally picture him as the rat he is, but rat, mouse, whatever you want to say.
But just yesterday, I was speaking with someone here in New York, and they said, hey, Daniela, what's the mayor's name up there in Canada? No one knows anything about Canada. It feels like no one respects Canada anymore. I mean, that's just the vibe I'm getting.
I'm so ashamed of what he's done to us. I went with my wife to a wedding in Cairo just months ago. They wouldn't let us in with our Canadian passports.
Wow, that's...
I mean, Trudeau, what did you do to us? What did you do to us? The same thing in India, the same thing in China. Like, what did you do? You own this problem. You own it. It's you. It's you. You own it. You own it. I'm so pissed. I have a Canadian passport, the most coveted passport on earth. What did he do to us?
Oh, jeez.
I don't even know why they're pissed at us. I have to use my Irish passport to go to a wedding, and I'm so pissed.
Well, thank you for that heartfelt...
Wow. Kevin O'Leary, this is by far the biggest blowout, the most emotional unloading of Trudeau frustration I've ever seen from this man. He's usually pretty buttoned up. He's genuinely had enough of Trudeau, just like the rest of us. It's nice to see Kevin O'Leary. He's on the same page as us. He's been keeping it cool as a cucumber. Here he is on the ITM Trading News, just ripping Trudeau a new one.
Lee, Kevin, I'm sure it resonates with many people watching right now.
Sorry, I just have to tell the truth sometimes.
Well, we welcome you on the show anytime. You know, as Elon Musk says, legacy media is dead.
Whatever. I just had to get it off my chest. I'm a proud Canadian. I want what's best for our country, and I want to be proud of my passport and my legacy as Canadian. By the way, I'm working to bring capital back. As soon as that guy is gone, I'm coming back.
He said it perfectly there. I want to be proud of my passport. We all used to be proud of it. What is it now? Countries don't respect us. As he said, it's hard to get in countries now because of Justin Trudeau. He's pissed off world leaders from numerous different countries around the world. He's blowing up international trade relations with India right now. He mocked and made fun of Trump 4 years ago. Now Trump's getting back in power. How do you think that relationship's going to go? Not very good. Not until we get rid of this schmuck. Regardless of passionate Kevin Leary love to see it, it's time to get that mouse.
When was the last time you felt proud to be Canadian?
9 years ago. But I'm coming back, and I want to rally our country. We can punch above our weight. We just have to get rid of. I mean, no disrespect, but please step aside.
We got to take a look at the comments of this one. Calling Trudeau a mouse is an insult to the mouse. Trudeau deserves 100 consecutive life sentences for what he has done to Canada. Ooh. Kevin O'Leary, your anger and opinion about Trudeau are identical to mine and many other Canadians. Thank you for speaking the truth. A lot of these comments in support here. Your outburst is felt wholeheartedly and agreed upon. I think mouse is too nice a term for Trudeau. My opinion, rat would be more appropriate. Yes, he is the rat, the swindling rat. Justice for truckers. I'll donate 100 mouse traps to get that mouse. I've reported on the channel here recently that a bunch of Americans are already starting to head towards Canada. A lot of them asylum seekers, a lot of them doing it legally. In this case, we have a couple here doing it legally, including this girl here.
I'm American and I just moved to Canada. Let me repeat that. I'm American and I just moved to Canada. I can help you. I can help you if you want help. Let me know. I will help you. I have 2 animals. We just did it. Let me know.
A lot of people in the comments here complaining that the Liberals of America are moving to Canada, so we're getting more Liberals moving up here. We've got this couple too who have also moved to Canada after Trump's win. Okay, we can't have that music in here, but you can see Canadian border. We're going to see a big flood of people here because of Trump. But mostly, I think there's going to be a lot more asylum seekers that are coming up. We've seen those numbers already skyrocketing. As people are saying here, what are you going to do next year when we elect a conservative government? Next up, here's the state of Canada, the real GDP per capita. What's interesting about this one, you can see, starts at 1995. You know, Canada and US here, very much matched. All the way until Trudeau gets into power. This is the biggest smoking gun of what's going on in Canada here. It's unbelievable the amount of debt the Liberals have put us in. Our great-great-great-grandchildren will still be paying it off. We got this one here, non-permanent residents in Canada. Kaboom! It's time for Donald Trump to invite Canadians to vote in a referendum to join America and dissolve all current levels of government in Canada. That would be a wild thing to happen if Canada joined America. Wow, what a thought. So next up, we've got this here. This is ridiculous. So we've got F. Trudeau protests taking part in India now. Hindus and Sikhs in New Delhi pissed off at Trudeau, now protesting in front of the Canadian embassy is coming from the pleb. The anti-Trudeau movement is global and it's growing. F. Trudeau protests in India, folks. Well, you can't make this stuff up. Next up, we got a panel here on CBC. They've got Rona Ambrose, a former conservative. We've also got on screen here Bill Morneau, the former finance minister. Bassi asks him if Trudeau's going too far with his policies right now. Interesting to hear this from the former Liberal.
Clearly an important part of the U.S. sector that way. And that means we have to ask ourselves, is it really the right time for caps on emissions? Is it that we need to be moving really fast on carbon capture and sequestration at the same time? So that'll be critically important. And we'll need to ask ourselves, and this is some hard questions. Should we really move forward on a digital services tax on technology when technology is going to be a critical issue for the U.S. to stay in the ascendancy? And should
No more taxes. Nobody wants these stupid taxes. It's killing our country.
We'd be looking carefully at our supply managed sectors to think about what we're going to do when we're inevitably faced with that issue in an upcoming discussion. So these are hard policy choices. I think they're the right things to be putting on the table to think about now. It's not only about having great relationships, it's also about the substance of what we're actually going to do to be a good partner to the United States.
If I interpret that right, Ms. Ambrose, it's like the context has changed. So the government, and I know, as a conservative, you would disagree with some of the stuff the government has pursued. But, putting aside, I guess, that view, does the changing context in the States, as Mr. Morneau points out, kind of necessitate a different approach on stuff that has been ideologically valuable to the government?
Absolutely. We are in a completely different situation. I mean, the government has an economic update coming up, I think, at the end of November. And I would recommend that if they've written it, they rewrite it and they look at it and make sure that it outlines the domestic economic policies that will make us competitive. I mean, we've got two trains coming at us. We've got the tariff war that's coming at us from Trump. There's only so much we can control there. And as Bill said, there's things that we can put on the table and we've got to hit back hard and retaliate with our own tariffs. But the other is within our control, and that's our domestic economic policies. And we know what Trump's going to do. He's going to lower the business tax rate to 15%. Our combined federal provincial is 38%. There's no carbon tax in the U.S. We have to think about, how do we lower emissions without a carbon tax? The Americans do it. How could we do it? We've just put a cap on production in our oil and gas sector, and we're the only country in the world to do that, which makes energy more expensive. Trump is saying he's going to deregulate in all kinds of sectors to make energy cheaper as an input for businesses and homes. So
just think about that. Energy around the world. You got the UAE, Brazil, China, you name it. They can all produce energy without a cap. But Canada, we need a cap because Justin Trudeau and Stephen Guilbeault say so.
We just increased the new capital gains tax inclusion rate, which is a drain on innovators, small businesses, startups. All of these things that we've been pursuing, which is a higher tax agenda, right from the carbon tax to the capital gains tax, is a drain on productivity and it's a drain on investment. So we've got to become more competitive, and we're not doing that here at home. We have a chance to do that. And we're going to continue to be uncompetitive with the U.S. if we don't. So we have a chance to pivot. We need to do that. We've done it in the past. When the U.S. has lowered their corporate tax rate, we've done the same thing to make sure that we can continue to attract investment, capital, and businesses to Canada. And we're going to have to react again to maintain or to create some level of competitiveness in our economy.
Yeah, Trudeau's not going to do that. He's not going to pivot to bring in competitiveness. He doesn't want us to do well. Everything he's doing is to hurt Canada. She just named them there: increased capital gains, a cap on emissions. What is Trudeau doing to actually help Canada? He's helping everyone except us, giving $54 million to Africa, hundreds of millions to Asian Infrastructure Bank. Heck, even a $9 million barn. Remember the $9 million barn? Things are going to get a lot worse in Canada before they get better. We need Pierre Poilievre to clean this mess up because Trudeau doesn't want to help us.
You've been on the inside of this government, Mr. Morneau. Do you think there will be a willingness to do that? And I ask because, you both point out, for example, the cap on emissions that was just introduced last week, the digital sales tax, a host of other things. Like, that is in line with what the government says their values are. Is it a hard pivot for them to make, Mr. Morneau, or do you also view it as one they have to?
Well, Ron and I largely agree on the fact that we really need to consider the fact that the world has changed. So I don't think there's really a choice. We need to think about how...
There's not a choice. Even though Bill Morneau here is telling the Liberals Trudeau to do something, he's not going to do anything. They just put that emissions cap in. They wanted to put it in a year ago. They've wanted that for a while. It's almost like Mark Carney with his Brookfield Asset Management, who's doing those big oil deals in different countries around the world that's not in Canada. It's almost as if he wants Canada to be less competitive on the big energy market. Something to think about.
Do you think the government should pause or delay the cap on emissions?
Well, my view is that energy is one of the most important sectors in Canada. Clearly, it's a hugely important issue for the United States, energy security. So we should look at that and say, how can we meet our goals from a climate standpoint? And I would identify, moving faster with the energy industry on carbon capture and sequestration. And at the same time, I would question whether putting caps on emissions right now is the right time. So
this is coming from the former Liberal finance minister. They all know energy is number one. Why would Trudeau and Guilbeault put a cap on Canada's energy? They know it's going to devastate our economy. If you look around the world, look at the countries that don't have big energy. Pick anywhere in Africa, Congo, Sierra Leone, Somalia. These countries suffer because they don't have energy. Countries with energy are the ones that are prosperous. Why would our own prime minister reduce our energy production and hurt our country when it's the backbone of modern life?
Yes, I would look at that in the context of the broader North American relationship. And I would be very careful about thinking about doing that now.
This is a dangerous thing that Justin Trudeau has done, not to mention the fact that he's already mocked and talked behind Trump's back. And now Trump's back in power. Trudeau needs to call an election, get his butt out of the chair. Take a look at the comments here. He's two-faced, lol. Trump should simply refuse to deal with Trudeau. That would be the best thing. If he just didn't do anything with Canada until Poilievre got in, they could start fresh. In other words, JT has all the wrong policies. Yeah, no kidding. Election now. Trudeau's dreaming. Now, what got us into this problem is this greasy little rat, Stephen Guilbeault.
Now, Premier Smith is promising to take your government to court over this because, again, even if you are targeting the emissions and the pollution here, they say the practical impact will be on production. Are you confident this will win in court?
Yes, we are. Absolutely. As I told you earlier, we anticipate by 2030 that the production sector is going to increase by 16%. So I'm not sure I'd follow the Premier here saying that, it's going to lead to production cut when we're actually showing that production will increase.
You guys lie every time you open your mouth. No one's believing a single word you say, a single stat you give. They're all lies.
Now, in your news conference today, you said that Alberta does stupid things. And in response to that, we heard the Premier accuse you of having a, quote, deranged vendetta against Alberta. What do you say to that?
I said that conservative leaders in Canada are playing stupid games when it comes to climate change. They're pretending that climate change isn't happening. Just for this summer, Michael, $7 billion in climate damage, the worst year ever. And that's just 2 months of 2024, not the entire year. And Canadians are paying for that all across the country. Atmospheric rivers in British Columbia, forest fires in Jasper, Fiona on...
Forest fires in Jasper's your fault, you buffoon. They really wanted some really scorching, nasty forest fires over the summer. They didn't come. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. What's going on, guys? Your old smoking gun wasn't there. So now they're having to lean on the atmospheric rivers in Jasper. Well, it's like your fault, man.
The East Coast, heat waves. Climate change is real, it's happening, and as a responsible government, we're putting in place a plan to ensure that we can fight climate change, that we can invest in the Canadian economy, and we can create good jobs. Conservatives, leaders like Pierre Poilievre and Premier Scott Moe and Premier Smith are pretending that climate change isn't even real, and that's why I say they're playing a very dangerous game with the livelihood of Canadian, with the future, not
the audacity of this man to hurt our economy so badly and then to utter those words on the national broadcast here in Canada is absolutely disgraceful.
Not just the economic future, but what kind of planets will we leave to our kids and grandkids? We have a moral obligation to act, and unfortunately...
You have a moral obligation to never go near a government job ever.
They're failing on that obligation. He's
denying reality, period. Demand for oil and gas increasing, and taking this action only hamstrings Canada. This rat face thinks people support him. Stephen keeps denying economic science. He has no idea what science is. He may be scientifically denying Quebec's huge transfer payments. Justin Trudeau has been clueless, hopeful, delusional, who knows? But Scott Reid just really says it straight.
Scott, as you watch these, and we were together on election, as you watch these results unfold, we've had a few days to process them. If you're sitting in the Prime Minister's office, what is the takeaway politically at a strategic level out of this?
Well, what the takeaway should be is don't overlook the obvious. And, we all indulged last week, maybe not all of us, certainly I indulged. I was a dummy who indulged in overlooking the obvious and trying to find in a spate of overanalysis, some reason to ignore the fact that voters in the United States want to change. 70% of voters in the U.S. said they thought their country was headed in the wrong direction. That is why Kamala Harris lost. And so if I'm sitting in the Prime Minister's office and I know that only 25% of Canadians think the country's headed in the right direction, I have to realize that that is the wall, the unforgiving wall that I'm running at as fast as I can. I think it's a devastating loss for folks in the Prime Minister's office as they look across the border, because what it reminds you is that voters who want change will not be denied. And I think that's a very, very, very tough verdict for Justin Trudeau.
How do you tactically, if you are the Liberals, Corey, respond to that?
Well, there are obvious things that they're not doing, like change your leadership and change some of the unpopular policies that are driving the decline in your numbers, especially things related to affordability. And the most obvious one that we talk about all the time is the carbon tax. They're set to increase it again in the spring before going into the next election. Or what?
Just think about that. Carbon tax going up again. You know, we all kind of forgot about it. Every spring until 2030, you keep jacking that stupid carbon tax.
Could be the next election. So I don't think that a status quo and then just hectoring people saying, oh, well, you should think about the world differently than you do and wag your finger. It works very well anywhere, but I think we got another example of that not working well in the United States. You know, if Kamala Harris had an answer as to what she would do differently than Biden, instead of saying, I can't think of a single policy I would change, she might have fared better, you know, for all the reasons that Scott said it. Change election, change electorate. People want a government that's more focused on the economy. And if you're talking about democracy, I'll tell you something. You're living a pretty comfortable life, because most people who were voting for Trump were worried about paying their rent or their mortgage or their job or their purchasing power when they go to the grocery store. Those are the things that the electorate wanted to talk about, not the, you know, some abstract state of democracy sort of play, which just did not resonate with the electorate and what its focus was.
I think, like, just jumping off that, Kathleen, in the days that followed, I was trying to think to myself as well, like, what explains this? And I could tell you very specifically the threat that the Democrats and Kamala Harris specifically thought Donald Trump posed. I don't think I could tell you 4 to 5 things that she was going to do to improve the economic situation of people. I know they existed, but I didn't hear that message as frequently as I did, you know, a characterization of Donald Trump that they believed in. Is there a lesson in that for the Liberals?
There's so many lessons. Out of the U.S., I would say, first of all, the Liberals have to approach, all parties have to approach this loss and what happened in the States, or the outcome, I should say, and approach it with humility. Number one, I think one of the lessons I take away from it, that character attacks don't work for someone who's been in the public eye, the public sphere for 3 decades and has run for president 3 times. But there's a couple other lessons. You know, Corey mentioned it. You know, you have a pretty big luxury of time and space and mind if you could be thinking about democracy and multilateral institutions, which is something that this government talks a lot about. When people really were reflecting on the past 4 years in the U.S. and saying, you know, my life isn't that much better than it was. And that's why they wanted to vote Biden/Harris out. But the thing is, you spoke about incumbency off the top. People in this election year of 2024 have also spoken about immigration, obviously inflation, all major factors. But
we basically have all the problems they have, but they're much worse in Canada. That's why we're seeing, you know, you say 25%, it's more like 22% for the Liberals, or 20%. We've seen as low as 18%, which is a far bigger majority for the Conservatives than Donald Trump had in America. You know, he's talking 70% versus 30% for Kamala. I think Kevin O'Leary said it best when she was basically just given that role to be the nominee versus actually having to fight through all the other candidates to earn it. I don't know if that swayed a bunch of the voters in the middle in America, or it was strictly the economy, but we're going to be seeing a much bigger conservative wave here in Canada taking over once Justin Trudeau finally calls an election. Jumping over to my group here, let's check out some memes. New poll shows Pierre winning more than Trudeau and Singh combined. Wow. We got Canadian poppy donuts. Interglacials usually last 10 to 15,000 years. Ours is 11,000 years. We got this going around, a case of BC avian flu. Like, what is this, the next scare tactic? We got a goat here. Kevin O'Leary endorses candidate for next Prime Minister of Canada. I made the joke before, we could be sticking a pineapple in Trudeau's chair. I like the goat. You get a yay or a nay out of the goat. But good enough. We would get better decisions with just a goat randomly answering than Justin Trudeau actually making terrible decisions. National Lampoon Indian Vacation. This is a classic. The real question we have to wonder about now is, with the energy in Canada, with Trump, the whole situation, will Pierre Poilievre be able to get in power fast enough to save Canada, or will Trudeau destroy our country before Pierre even gets elected?